Can't already believe it. The CNE game for the Toronto Argonauts is already here as Candid Frank Sanishi, David Morris, Sudi join me. Gentlemen, obviously the hot button issue is the Argonauts having to be displaced for 3 home games next year. But more than anything, before David joined our little StreamYard chat, I was comparing the Argonauts season as a whole to where it's like they're 2-8, but it's almost like you're being led down a path of wrong in the sense of this team hasn't been blown out that much. It's not like when when Edmonton was losing and they just kept getting skunked week in and week out. No, this team is keeping it close to where do you think eventually they either have to start winning or you just got to get skunked a couple of times to basically tell the fans either, hey, we're going to try to prove something or, hey, it's really over?
I don't see. The thing is, I don't think with this type of team, they don't want to give up, and they're not in a position. And frankly, I hate to say it, they're not in a position right now to give up. Yeah, their record is terrible. They're in the bottom of the East, but a team that's ahead of them is only up by 1 game, right? Montreal right now, that's a sticky situation over there. Like realistically, and Frank, you and I have seen this many times before. We have seen teams get into the playoffs either at 500 or under 500. I don't think you give up on the season until you are pretty much almost mathematically out of it.
I don't think it's a concern. I agree with you, David, that this team is not gonna give up. But unfortunately, it's not about a willingness to give up. It's an inability to have the confidence and the belief in yourself that you can win. Griff and I talked off air about, and I brought up the point of Edmonton, where they went, whatever it was, 24 games in a row, having not won. Most of those games were not ones they lost by 40 points. And what ends up happening is, and this is what I think is happening with Toronto, and it isn't about them wanting or not wanting to win, whatever. But what it is the confidence level of a team when they get in trouble, because they keep losing these close games. If it's close, they start, to use a hockey term, they squeeze the sticks a little too hard. Because you notice they make some really bad mistakes at the end of the game, like hiking the ball over the kicker's head.
Yeah, there's just been too many mental errors.
Yeah, like I almost want to rephrase it though. When I was asking the question, I wasn't saying like, "Hey, did they give up and throw in the towel?"
Mm-hmm.
But is it enough for the fans? Because I feel like there are some fans out there where it's like, "Hey guys, we're gonna be okay." But if this Saturday they go out there and they get skunked by the Lions, does that change a lot of fans' opinions on? Oh, not that it's mathematically eliminated, but hey, more than likely it's not our year. And also the other point I just want to make too is, I feel like there's a lot of reality check for Argos fans, especially like someone like a reporter like myself. You guys remember what was their record in my first season with the team? 16-2, East final, and then last year was a Grey Cup win. To where now it's a little chalky, but I feel like they have the proper management and the proper leaders in the room, which we will get to with the injury report today. It's looking a little dicey to where I'm not saying they can turn it around completely and do a complete 180, but I think they can salvage it to where it's like what Hamilton did at the end of last season, to where going into next year with all the uncertainty, you can give your fans something to latch onto to say, we will be fine. We will be back. We trust Coach Dinwiddie and others.
I'll start this one because I want to throw this in. The Argos have been a hit and miss team, literally, not figuratively, literally. And they've been like that for years. This team has had bad seasons, but they've been interrupted by Grey Cups, the past since 2012. They have been a team that has won more than their share of Grey Cups, as bad as they've been through that time. And this is how I'm going to frame the fans' perspective. The fans know that. If you notice, and David, I know you I can ask you this question. Every time they've won the cup while you're covering them, did the Argo fans ever seem surprised to you? Have they ever seemed surprised?
Not the fans. I would say, not the Argo fans. I see every other fan base.
Absolutely. And that is my point, is that, and to that point, what I'll say, Griff, is that it's like what'll screw over the Argo fans if they have 2 or 3 bad years in a row. And that'll be something that'll really cut into the little bit of respect that they have left at this point. And let's keep that in mind. They have 13,000 people show up at a football game, and there's only 10 of them a year. That's not a lot of people interested in the team. And one has to beg the question, and it's the proverbial question around the CFL, is why do people in Toronto not care about the Argos? And I don't know if it's because of the hit and miss. I don't know if they haven't built a team that's indestructible over the years, but I do know one thing: people don't show up, and not playing well will only help that situation, that trend.
I feel like there's an alternate universe out there, and I've been saying this for a couple of years now, that if they win that East Final, or at least don't get skunked in that East Final the way they did, there's a lot of those people from that game.
I agree 100%.
That come back for 2024. Even if they get to the Grey Cup that year and lose, you have a lot of people that were at a game saying, hey, this is a 16-2 team. They got to the Grey Cup. I want to see where things go.
I always said that was always it wasn't that they lost, it was how they lost. Right?
And to be saying they got skunked.
Right? Like, to get absolutely embarrassed, right, in their biggest game in a long time in that stadium. But I also think there was also just a general buzz around the team in that time as well, right? Chad Kelly was MOP, having an MOP season. That team's rushing attack was unbelievable, right? They had really good. All 3 phases were performing quite well, right? We had, I think that was still when Javon Leake was there, right? And so, like,
broke the record that year.
Yeah, the roster was good. The talent was good, and like, when people say, "Oh, how does this team go from being 16-2 to now only having 2 wins so far this year?" I said, look at the 2023 team, and look at the 2025 team. A lot has changed in 2 years. Some people don't think that, but guess what? It has. It has in a lot of ways, and I think. There's been some close games that make me think that, maybe there could have been an opportunity for them to be better. And I think, Frank, you and I have talked about this many times. There's been many opportunities where this season could have looked a lot different. But unfortunately, the errors that they have made just were too plentiful, right? It was, you talked about some of the ones against Edmonton. Like, that Edmonton game was a winnable game. Right, the effort was there, but the mental errors and at certain times where they needed to stop and they didn't get it, it all compiles into, where, it reminds me a lot, like, at times Hamilton over the past few years, where you can say, I think Hamilton's teams weren't as talented as Toronto's were. There was a lot of things not going right behind the scenes too. But you look at this Toronto team, and you can clearly see why it's gone the way it has. And some people, I don't think, are talking about it enough. I don't think it's as much of a coaching thing. I think it's more of a player personnel management, how talent has been managed, depth. Like, you look at the players they traded away.
Go away.
Yeah.
Like the biggest trade of them all still. Obviously it's the more melodic, the Flow trade. Like, Cam Judge has been fine for the Argos, but Flow has really been the engine that's made that Calgary D-line run. Dejan Allen too for Ryder Vargas, another like just hit and miss move, which people were excited for Varga coming in. I thought they were beefing up the defense, but in reality, it just seems like it was a cap dump. Same with Flow. And then the other thing too is just a mix of bad luck and a mix of injury luck. Like, we were looking at the report today, while Ryan Hunter and Chad Kelly showing up on it, newish, and also Mayan Williams on there as well, limited today.
Go ahead, keep talking.
Jordan Williams limited with the shoulder. Wynton McManus out with the tricep, which is a brand new issue because I know he's in the knee.
Ouch.
Yes.
Ouch.
DeMonte Coxey head.
Oh my God.
How do you say Adam's last name? Guillemette.
Willett.
Oh, Yonlet, I think is how you say it.
Gillet out. Like, how does your long snapper get a head injury? That's a question. But I don't like with this. I don't expect Hunter or Kelly to play. It's just great to see them on the report. I still expect one or two of them back post bye week, but one's a little more sensitive topic than the other. I do think Hunter will be back after Labor Day with the bye week, but you have a hungry BC team coming in this Saturday to where this injury report doesn't sugarcoat anything. It just shows either, hey, guys got to step up, or you're going to be down a couple very, very key pieces in Wynton McManus and DeMonte Coxey come Saturday afternoon.
Well, you just brought it up. You brought a BC team that absolutely took the they provided a pretty good beating on Montreal, who have dealt with their own injuries for sure. And so if I'm the Argos, you're hoping and praying that Wynn is not like, if you don't have Wynn McManus, if you don't have DeMonte Coxey, boy. Right? Like those are the two that concern me. The head injury with DeMonte Coxey, right? I'm planning to go to practice on Wednesday, so hopefully I'll get a better sense of where that is. But yeah, it's not a good start to the injury report. This team is already banged up. They can't be that banged up going up against this BC team.
No. Also, a game I can confirm as of today, I will be at with you guys.
Okay.
Well, no, just with me. I have to email Chris every week just saying, like, hey, like, let me know if you need anything. And he's always like, perfect, gate 5. But yeah, it's really tough right now. Obviously, one fun fact is that BC has not won in Toronto since 2019, but Toronto also only won 4 games that year. So they do have that on their side, but at the same time, too, you're missing that leadership. You saw there's 2 sides of the Argos that we can see. You can see the one that rises from the ashes, especially like the last 2 years when they were heavy underdogs against the Lions and still came out on top. But the Lions also didn't have Nathan Rourke in those games, and Nathan Rourke has picked apart weak teams this year. And I'm not calling the Argos weak. I'm just saying whenever he's played teams that are – BC has played teams that are beneath them in the standings, they've always seemed to come out on top. It's like how we were saying, look what they did to Montreal on Saturday, and look what they did to Hamilton week 1 earlier this year, and even the game in Edmonton earlier this season to win. Edmonton had, 49 yards passing?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Nathan Rourke has been arguably a top 4 quarterback, top 5. Well, he's definitely top 5, but if you ask me, he's just on the outside looking in for MOP just because Bo Levi Mitchell and Trevor Harris and Vernon Jr. have just been incredible this year. But Nathan Rourke is right there in terms of how his season has gone. Like, you look at it, he's 3rd in the league in passing yards. Yes, he's played 10 games, which is why I don't look at passing yards as the only stat. But he's 16-6 when it comes to touchdown interception ratio, which is it's not as good as Bo Levi Mitchell's. Mitchell's got a better one, but Trevor Harris has got a better one too. But it's the 110.4 quarterback rating, the efficiency or whatever you want to call it. And he's averaging 9.9 yards per play. The only person that's averaging better among starting quarterbacks, Trevor Harris, Vernon Adams Jr. So he's not dealing with the volume that a Bo Levi Mitchell has, right? And that's why I always say a quarterback that can do it without the volume. There's I think something to be said about that. I think there's something to be said about being able to be as explosive. Now, I wish the accuracy was just a bit better. It's within the average of what most of the QBs in this league are at, but I think that's my concern for the Argos. They have struggled against the top quarterbacks this year, right? They haven't been. If you get a good like Drew Brown had a really good day, and that was his best game of the season. He has not had many of those really this year. So if you think you're worried about going up against a Drew Brown, Nathan Rourke is another beast.
Okay, I'll weigh in on Nathan Rourke. He came back to the Canadian Football League, having been passed around like I don't know, like an old shoe, in the NFL. He's passed around. to me, from the outside, I'm not an expert, but I saw things that he did that I felt, and I don't work for him and I'm not pulling for him, that should have gotten him a little more of a look-see wherever he was. It's like whatever went wrong with that guy, it had nothing to do with when they handed him the ball and they said, okay, show us what you can do. Because pretty much every time they handed him the ball to show what he could do some stuff. He looked really good.
Oh yeah.
And I think he suffered because they're being a free agent in the NFL. It's like in every sport, right? General managers will give the players they draft a heck of a lot more leeway. They'll give them more opportunity. And then they'll convince themselves, well, we didn't draft this guy because this guy isn't a normal quarterback. This guy didn't come the right roadway to the NFL. So maybe he just lucked out and had a couple of good games. Now he comes back to the Canadian Football League, to a place where he had nothing but success. I mean, literally nothing but success. And he's coming back and he wants to do his best that he can. He's really happy to be here. He truly is. But in the back of his head, he's got these doubts that really haven't manifested themselves. And then he starts playing in the Canadian Football League, and all the film people had it saved. They were ready for him when he came back. On top of that, then he comes to this year. Now he's got a new coach, first-time head coach. He's got a new quarterback, offensive coordinator. There's an adjustment that needs to happen. To David's point, I support David 100%. The last thing he said was you don't want to meet him because he's really good. Well, guess what? He's only going to get better because he's going to have an offense that's run by management that understands what they want to do, and they're going to keep tweaking it until it gets better and better. And I'm going to use the same phrase you used, Griff, on their coaching staff. I have faith in their coaching staff. I really do. I have faith in their coaching staff, and I believe they're going to help him to be as good and maybe even better than he was on his first visit, maybe even before the end of the year.
That's just the big thing with Nathan Rourke, is that as the season's gone on, he started to improve his game, and he's only getting better. Look, he did have the injuries there, but we saw when he was hurt how valuable he was to the Lions, because you could not play Jeremiah Masoli. I'm sorry, the 2 games he played, it was like 2 or 3, but still, it was like he is just making error after error to where you're like, yeah, we need Nathan Rourke back ASAP. And even the game against Hamilton, the first one in BC, look, Bo Levi Mitchell led a great late game comeback, but Nathan Rourke was going toe to toe with him. We saw 2 weeks ago in Hamilton what Nathan Rourke did, winning that game in overtime. Obviously, Tim White trying to play hero ball, but that's not why we're here to talk. There's a lot that he can do, and I feel like weapons like Justin McInnis, and there's a couple other receivers whose names are escaping me right now, can really shine, because we've seen a lot of teams start to go deep against this Argo secondary to where that could be a really big concern. So special teams has taken a lot of flack, and deservedly so, for this year. But if the Argos want to win this game, they can't let Nathan Rourke get explosive. If you do that, it's gonna be a long day at the CNE.
No, they lack the oldest definition of a good defense is bend, don't break.
Yep.
Argos break before they even bend. They just don't have the ability to bend. It seems they just snap at the, especially, and I've joked beside you, Griff, for what now? For about 2 years now.
Yep.
2 and long is a guarantee for the opposition. We keep seeing it. And how stupid is that? How does a defense, one of its weakest moments is when the other team is going 2nd and long, for gosh sakes?
It's truly remarkable. The biggest example of this is, I remember it was the game against, who was it? Montreal last year. I don't know if you remember that, but they would always get 2nd and long, and it's just like, you'd be like, hey, 2nd and long, it's coming up now. Look at this. Oh, boom, they convert. Oh, 2nd and long, boom. Oh, they convert. It's just, it's coming. Hamilton did it about a month, like a little over 6 weeks ago. They did it with Hamilton. Montreal did it in the opener. But then there's some games with Toronto this year where I just want to be like, please explain what went wrong. And that's the second Montreal game and the game against Ottawa, which the second Montreal game was like, you know what? Okay, Montreal proved to be a better team, even though that win's proving costly for the Islanders. But it's how they lost to Toronto. It's how Toronto lost it 2 weeks ago to Ottawa, to where it's like question after question, where I've seen fans saying, oh, the run game this, the run game that, to where it's like, should we have kept Dan out of Boye? which this is something I brought up to David when Dan was traded.
Oh, I didn't like that trade from the moment they made it. And
I
David,
didn't like it, but I didn't like it, but I understood why they did it because Dan wasn't going to get playing time here. If anything, cutting Kadeem Carey was the bigger mistake of the offseason.
Oh, for sure.
Financial compensation or not, he was the horse that made that offense go last year.
And the irony is because they didn't work magic with the cap, and they kept Kelly on the periphery. They didn't do anything. They could have jettisoned Leak later when they knew that Kelly was on his way back, when they needed the money or the cap space, right? That's the mistake they made. For me, that is the biggest mistake they made because they disrespected the importance of the running game in the Canadian Football League. It's that simple. And that team, the Argonauts, that's an about face. This is a team that let go of Javon Leak and then came back with Grant. I mean, this is a team that gave me the impression they really thought the running game was important.
Even last year, I remember the first game asking Ryan, I'm like, hey, how important was Kadeem Carey? He's just like, well, that's why we brought him in. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, hey, I understand finances is finances, but then the way the Kelly situation has been handled has been really weird this entire season to where it's like on the one game and then, look, I won't sugarcoat it. I caught wind of it right before kickoff that, hey, he's on the 6th game. And then as we were walking down, that's when it became official. So that's where I felt more comfortable asking him about it. But now it comes to the point, and that's why I asked it a couple weeks ago. Obviously, look, Dave and I had to talk about it, to sugarcoat the question, to where now if it keeps going the way it's going, do you even consider playing Chad this year? I don't like anyone saying, oh, he should be off the team for 26. No, I think he is your starting quarterback next year. But how do you work him back in, especially, if the season's not the season's lost, but if the season's not there for redemption? Because I feel like you do need to get him the reps, but at the same time, too, is it him ultimately calling the shots when he comes back, or do you think there's more to it than just that? Like because the fact he's going down to Buffalo to work, the fact that Toronto waited so long to put him on the 6th game, I don't want to say it's fishy. I just feel like there's something more to it there than a lot of us are being led to believe.
Absolutely, and David and I think David and I had conversations about. I think David was either you or me. I don't even remember which one of us suggested it. That do you really want to put Kelly in that and behind that offensive line?
Well, I think that's more of what Ryan did what he's been saying. I don't like it's not even
okay.
It's just like, I've had this conversation with Dinwiddie, and he's just like, Chad can probably play, but with if he's asked to run, is he comfortable doing it? Is he comfortable and are you comfortable putting him behind that offensive line? I think that's a big reason for it. Like this team has gone from being the best offensive line in the league to one of the worst.
The worst. There's no.
Frank's like, don't even sugarcoat it.
Don't even bother. I mean, this is a team that has the worst offensive line and the worst defense to defend against the running game. They're on both ends of the spectrum bad.
Well, it's worse the thing is the only team that's worse in terms of protecting the quarterback are Ottawa and Edmonton. More so Edmonton. But what do those two teams have that Toronto doesn't have?
A running game and a quarterback.
The ability to run the football. Right? No, not amazing. I think Ottawa's
Stanback's been fine.
They're both middle of the pack, but they're not like it's not a big. It's
not the bottom of the pack.
But not Toronto. That's for sure. They're almost doubling what Toronto's production is on in the run game, which is pathetic to think about. Really,
Arbuckle leads the team in rushing.
That's
not good.
So,
like Arbuckle's a Russian quarterback.
I know I wasn't at the post game stuff Friday night, and basically now it's cats out of the bag that like I officially have my profile on 3 down. But I included even something as simple as going 1 for 5 in Friday's game was like inexcusable for the offense to do in the red zone. And someone's just like, "Oh, they've been good all year in the red zone." Like, how dare you say that? And I just want to be like, It's literally this game. I don't care what your record is. Going 1 for 5 is bad in the red zone. And Nick Arbuckle's been fine. Nick Arbuckle's been serviceable. When I said quarterback, I meant like in the sense of both Ottawa and Edmonton had a starting quarterback going into the year. They had they picked their guy. Obviously, it's been a little rocky, both one with injuries and one just with Trey Ford. I don't know what the heck's going on with them. But I still think the Chad Kelly thing's kind of like riding a bike, Chad fell off the bike, but now he's scared to get back up and ride the bike again. Where he thinks, I'm going to fall. I think with him, if he gets in the game, he takes a sack, walks up, he's fine. That's where it's like, okay, it's time to go. But my big thing is, like, with him going on the 6th game at the time he did, like, if he's ready for Edmonton, do you bring him Edmonton? Like, because if they don't play him against Edmonton, it feels weird playing on a short week against Montreal. And then after that, it's going West Coast to BC on a Friday night. And then it's a game which I'll say might be Tie-Cat heavy on October 4th. It's one of those things with him. If not now, when? When you're eligible to come back, when do we play you?
The one thing we talked about on our show, I mentioned to David, and I'll mention it here on your show. My biggest feeling that Dinwiddie's biggest weakness in my mind, the one thing that he does, love the guy, great coach.
Yep.
But historically, with every quarterback he's had, he's allowed them to have the latitude to control the situation. With Macbeth, MBT, there were multiple times when he did not play well and he refused to come and meet the media. And that has to be approved by the coach and the management team. And when we see with Kelly, part of what you're talking about here is, are they just basically giving him the right to decide and to waffle? And while waffling, it's causing the Argos problems because of their cap, because he's so expensive and they needed another expensive because Arbuckle's not cheap, right? He's not a cheap quarterback. And the budget's getting pushed by those two quarterbacks, one that's not playing, one that is. And now you have to get rid of a running back. And we're back to the conversation I had a moment ago. You can no good without a running game. And you're allowing the quarterback to make decisions. And I think they should be a little more stiff-spined when it comes to especially Kelly. Kelly's not the guy that you give him latitude. You have to keep him on the straight and narrow for multiple reasons.
When he doesn't, I just want to ask a quick question about when MBT wouldn't talk to the media. And also, I'd say this, I feel like that didn't happen with Cam Dukes. I feel like we knew right away when Dinwiddie wasn't sold on him. But when it comes to quarterbacks not talking to the media, does Chris say anything to them in the sense of like, hey, you need to do it? And they're like, no, and he just goes, okay? Or does Chris really try to push him until he gets like
there's probably a conversation, but at the end of the day,
can't force someone. You can force someone to water, but you can't. You can make someone go to the water, but you can't force them to drink it.
Well, exactly. Like the player has a bit of he has to consider if it's even worth for the player to talk to if they're not in a good state either. Because if they go out and they say something that's completely out of line or puts the team in a tough spot, then who gets in trouble, right?
Then you have the wrong guy, David. Then you shouldn't have that guy on your team. That's my whole point. Is that what we're looking at in hindsight? What we're looking at in hindsight is we're looking at Kelly being a quarterback that doesn't play. That's who he is. He's a quarterback who doesn't play. We can talk about injuries. We can talk also about things that he does off the field that caused him not. There's a malaise on this team, and he's central to it. I'm not blaming him for the way the Argos have played. I'm blaming the Argos for putting themselves in that position. At the end of the day here, this is a professional football team. All right. And when a football player, a quarterback who's literally the voice of the team, can actually avoid being interviewed by the press, it's not like he's getting fried. I mean, when you're that defensive about commenting on a game, what does that say about your character? That's my whole point, is that you're creating a problem because you have people with a lack of character on your team. This Argo team before Kelly came was, I think, the biggest quality they had wasn't the quarterback, was the team's character, where they were able to do things that other teams couldn't do, and they won Grey Cups doing that. And now what we've got is we've got the opposite now. We've got a team of guys that aren't pulling sorry about the boat reference, but aren't rowing in the same direction. Pun intended, I guess.
They're not pulling together.
No, they're not pulling together either. Now we're going to use the taglines too. Okay, we'll do that too. Yeah. No, I just think I think this Argo team, this is going to be the season. This is going to be the season. David, I think you're right. Hamilton's year last year has to change. And they did make some changes towards the end of the year, which ended up giving them what they have now this year. And that's what the Argos need. I agree 100% with you. I just wanted to flesh out what I think is the reason and the direction they have to go. I would jettison Kelly, and I would just start over, get a quarterback, get rid of all this bad karma. You know, it's a ton of bad karma with the Argos.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, Frank, because we have seen this team give up on quarterbacks, and what's happened? Then they're
Sure,
like, well, we need a quarterback.
Caleros is a good example.
Caleros, Harris, right?
Fajardo.
They didn't
Caleros twice, by the way, not once, twice.
They didn't give up. They didn't give up on Harris. They didn't want that situation. Milanovic was it Milanovic?
Or was it Tressman?
It was Tressman.
No, it was
Anyway,
Milanovic.
Was it Milanovic? Okay. Yeah. What happened was, and I remember that distinctly. Harris didn't sign with the Argos, and he went to Ottawa, and Ottawa offered X amount of money. He came back to Toronto and says, if you offer me more money than Ottawa is offering, I'll stay with you. The Argos made a decision. I'm not agreeing with it, but I'm just trying to explain that it wasn't that they jettisoned him because they didn't want him. It's because they felt, I think, my interpretation of the situation, were offended that he did that. Which
well, they also had Ricky Ray.
Yeah.
They made the decision, we don't need to pay you because we have Ricky Ray. Like,
there you go. So it isn't that they got Caleros is a different story. David, that one there, that's going to sit as far as I'm concerned in the past 10, 15 years, the worst decision ever by the Toronto Argonauts. Even more than Carey was sending Caleros to Winnipeg, and I don't think I have to have a long speech to prove that point.
Well, and that was because Jim Pop was ready to sign him, but then they fired Jim Pop, and the new management just decided we're gonna do away. But here's the thing with Chad Kelly, okay? I think I've talked to people within the organization, within the locker room, there are players who have his back. There are players that support him, right? And they'll continue to support him. So I don't think it's a locker room issue when it comes to Chad Kelly. There's definitely look, I can't be acting as if him not talking to us, it's not a good look. But at the end of the day, that's something that he and the team have decided that's the way that I shouldn't say the team that he's decided. So be it. But I don't think that. But this season, it's all about the team deciding we're going to trade guys like Flo Rimolade, Dejon Allen.
Oh, agreed.
Canada Baboye. Who else? They cut Kadeem Carey. They lost Ralph Hawley to the NFL. You know, their whole D line got gutted. Half of it went to Edmonton. Like, at some point, you have to weigh the good, like what you're able, like when you are a winning team. And look, a lot of the players that left, the trades, those happen. Unfortunate, that's the way they felt they needed to go on the salary. It's every year at CFL teams deal with that. But the players who left, a lot of them left too because they wanted to go to what they felt was a better situation for themselves long term as well, right? Because some players didn't exactly some got paid more in Edmonton, others didn't get paid more, but they felt there was a better situation for them. It's just unfortunately this is the way it goes. But you look at the players, Chad Kelly's injury has loomed large, no question about it. Wayne McMahon's injury at one point, that loomed large too. But Ryan Dinwiddie has said it many times before. But previous years, the team had the talent to overcome mistakes. This team doesn't have that depth of talent. Not talent, because there are talented players on this team. It's the quality and depth across the board. is just not there. They're playing a rookie as starting at safety. You don't usually see that in the CFL unless the player. Now, Sluka, I'm not judging him at all, but when we're talking about things that aren't going well, he's had some really good plays, but he's also been a part of those games where a quarterback's thrown for where the other team has scored 40 plus points, right? At some point, yes, the individual moments are great, but the body of work just hasn't been there, not just for him, but for a lot of guys. That secondary, not good enough, right? But they also lost the key veterans, Royce Metier, Deshaun Amos,
Robert Priester.
Robert Priester. And Priester was kind of a tweener. He didn't even make camp last year, but then he came and he was better.
He had a great cop though, so that's what people are going to remember.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But again, yeah, some veteran players who could step up in the moments. McFadden was pretty good, but it all comes down to if this team can get pressure on the quarterback and force turnovers, that's their bread and butter. You saw it against Edmonton. The reason why that game was close, they forced turnovers, and the reason why they lost, red zone offense. Still can't get that red zone offense.
1 for 5.
I want to just, before we get too far away from it, I just want to make one other little thing about Kelly. Why is he thinking about the NFL? And why is he telling people he's the 32nd best quarterback? He could be better than the 32nd best quarterback in the NFL.
Wait, Frank, when did he say that?
There was an article that came out. I'm going to find it on Twitter and I'll send it to you.
Is this like recent or is this a few years ago?
Yeah, it's no. It's he said stuff like that before.
If he said it in 2025, okay, I can understand that. But if he said that pre him getting paid,
no. He said it this year. I believe he said it this year. In recent time, I assume it was recent time. I could be wrong.
If he said
it recent time or is it an old comment?
If he said it before he got the contract, that's different. But if it's after he got the contract, that's a different story. Because the Argos made that's a guaranteed investment that they made in Chad Kelly when they signed that deal. In a lot of ways.
My point is, if he did say that kind of stuff under my impression of what is my impression, that's just, it speaks to the character I'm talking about.
Well, he did get a somewhat of a shot in the NFL. But there are other players who have always felt like they deserve that opportunity in the NFL. You have to bet. You have to bet on your talent and how good you think you are.
You have to be focused on the team you're playing.
It's from ML Football, which is one of those bot accounts, but it says Canadian Football League quarterback Chad Kelly says that he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. If I'm in the top 32 NFL starting quarterbacks, and I think my resume has spoken for itself. Kelly is the nephew of Pro Football Hall of Famer Jim Kelly. Well, the only other thing I see here is my article from Thing, but you click on it, you click on the actual tweet, and it goes to nothing to see here yet. So it may have been something that was said a while ago that people are just kind of bringing up now. I think it's being brought back up for clickbait. Maybe it was said a few years ago, but I don't think it's like he's coming out and saying this now, because I think it would have been a bigger deal, or
people would have been picked up by a few people for sure.
Yeah, it was like I said, it's ML Football who tweeted it, which is a bot account, which I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt, essentially.
All right, I'll take it with a grain of salt. But hearing that kind of stuff, I stand corrected, and I'm okay with that. But still, I just know that the Argos need somebody who's focused on being an Argo.
Yeah,
that's all.
One question I have for you guys for coaching, because I feel like Dinwiddie's job is safe. I don't think there's a chance he's out the door, not against his own power. Do we see potential changes at other spots with like DC or special teams for 2026, or do we think that's too early to tell?
I think it's too early to say. I think you can make the case that some coordinators could be given a look. Like Mickey Donovan was signed to an extension last year. Here's the thing, guys. Frank, I'm going to bring it up.
I know. Management cap. Holy mackerel.
You can't just call for for coaches to be let go. Unless there's an exemption that they can get rid of the coach, or the coach has a 1-year deal. don't expect coaches to be let go. The CFL has made it very tough for teams to bite the bullet in a lot of those cases.
They also don't have the money that they have down south.
Right. Like if I always say this, my only concern had always been with Ryan Dinwiddie is that an NFL team would come calling and offer him a pretty good, like a Scott Milanovic sort of situation where he gets an opportunity, right? That's good for him and his family. That's the only one I think if you're an Argos, he ain't going to be let go by this team. I don't think there's any reason he should be let go by this team. And I frankly don't think it's a coaching issue. He doesn't come out and say, I don't have an answer. Like Frank, I've never, because the worst thing you can hear from a coach in a situation like this is like, I don't know, guys. I don't know what it is. He knows what it is. He has the game plan. The execution is there. Now, does the game plan need to change? Potentially.
Let me ask you. Okay, I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
Because I can't wait to say this. Does the next man up mean anything in the Canadian Football League?
Means a lot.
Well, it's football. It means a lot no matter the level of football.
If you're a good coach and because I'm smiling because I'm sitting there going, I agree with you. He's a great coach. He's a great coach. You can't let him go. Well, if it's not the coach, then it must be the players. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the players on the lineup. It could be the players that aren't joining the team. That's the problem. So, we can talk about having players and having players that can execute the plan and are capable of doing what needs to be done. We've talked a little bit. We've skirted the issue a little bit, both of you. We've talked about the fact that players, right? That players have to be good enough to execute. Players have to be good enough to get into the end zone, to get past the red zone. Players have to be good enough to protect the quarterback. Players have to be good enough to have the defensive capability to stop the long pass. My point is possibly the person that has constructed this team by providing the players has run dry. There's nothing left. Maybe it's time to find some, because they lost a good one that went to the Bills. Is it a coincidence? They're not, he was their Canadian player expert. And what do we talk about in Canadian football? It's your Canadians that make the difference. And if you don't have a real good recruitment of Canadian players, new Canadian players, or judge Canadian players that are in your lineup and then trade them when you shouldn't, then there's the problem in the Canadian Football League. That's what I'm just highlighting. I'm saying that's a possibility. For me, it's the players in the pipeline that aren't working anymore. That's something they had going all the time. They don't have it working now. It ain't happening for them. It just isn't. And that talks to the quality of recruits and recruiting.
Yeah, because you're seeing there's the one kid from the University of Windsor who's lighting it up for the Ticats at linebacker this year. You're seeing Alford, who's the first overall pick in the draft, just having a phenomenal year for the Calgary Stampeders. Toronto took Paris Shand and Jeremiah Ojo, but I know Shand's currently trying to make the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not sure. I think Ojo's with the Argos. I'm not sure the exact.
Ojo, I think he was in the lineup last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was dealing with an injury, and he came in later into camp. He was injured. So I'm going to double check that. I'm pretty sure he was in the lineup against Edmonton. Yeah, he's a backup.
Yeah.
Right? He's not starting. And that doesn't surprise me because you have to be a certain talent to play over veterans. On this, especially at defensive end when you've got Parrish and Chatfield, right? It's tough to be playing earning. Those guys get spot out, and Ojo does get some look, but sometimes you hit really well on a draft pick, like they did with Mital, and sometimes the draft picks need a little more time to get seasoned. It all depends on their situation. Yeah, because if
I'm not being I'm not talking. I'll tell you that I'm not talking draft specific.
No, I know. I just wanted to bring that up because those two guys are Canadian. They've been playing great for their teams.
Because the draft is something that you got to hit. You got to hit. That's why your point is well made with Hamilton. And we're seeing a couple of nice.
Narasek, that's the guy's name.
Yeah, we're seeing and that was the Argos a couple of years ago. Yes or no? I mean, you know, we've seen some rookie receivers, Canadians, that have done incredible with the Argos. We're not getting that right now. We're not getting young, explosive new players with the Argos right now. And to me, that's the new blood is how you fight the cap, how you control the cap, having young guys that are really good. And the Argos just don't have it this year. They just don't have good young players at the level that I think we are accustomed to. And why is that?
I think it's just a mix of scouting. I don't want to say management, because management's been doing a fine job with this team, but I think it's just the whole, you know, hey, we've been here before, we're going to be fine. When in reality, when the dam breaks, it really is broken, where it's like, we don't have the talent we thought we once did. So it's really up to the guys in those rooms. It's up to the guys that, you know, we face head on after every single home game, and the road games too will resume, that have to go out there and play 60 minutes of football. They've only played really one complete 60-minute game of football the entire season, because there were moments where, look, Ottawa, we were like, oh, they're back, they're looking fine. Lead crumbled, for lack of a better word. Montreal, the same thing too. We thought they were good. Didn't adjust in the second half. Montreal came back. Saskatchewan's another one. They had it. Special teams failed them. And then Hamilton, you were going toe-to-toe with them, and then you let Kenny Lawler roast you. So there's a lot of soul-searching that they need to do, and I think they can turn the ship around, but it's up to them to say, hey, we need to go out here and do this. We need to hold ourselves responsible and accountable, which they have done. But they can't just keep saying that week in and week out. They have to go show it on the field.
They need to play. I think, you know, and I'm going to repeat what Dinwiddie said was it last week, I guess? No, the last home game. We have a lot of guys that talk the talk, but they just don't have the guys that deliver. You know, the first year Wynton McManus was here, right? He was a revelation, right? The Argos don't have that right now. And to me, that's recruitment. You know, you've got to bring in guys that are difference makers, you know, and as far as drafting Canadians are concerned nowadays, and I talked about this for the last few years, I've been impressed with Canadian football players because so many of them have come and played well right off the beginning. We've seen it. We've seen it in the Canadian Football League. And we're just not seeing it out of Toronto right now. We're just not seeing it. To me, it's the players. I don't think it's a coach. And unfortunately, you got to land somewhere. If you can't say it isn't him, and then it isn't him, and now where are you? You're at making excuses now. Now you're making excuses. The truth is, their coaching's fine. The coaching's fine. We know that. We know the quarterback he's been one of the most effective quarterbacks the Argos have had, going back to Ricky Ray on a consistent basis. You might not like his red zone stuff, and that's very relevant and very fair. But really, when you think about it, have we seen an Argo offense when was the last time we saw an Argo offense like this? That's how bad the rest of the team is, that not even this offense can carry them out. The defense we've been spoiled sitting in the stands watching the Argo defenses of the past few years.
They're almost like the Cincinnati Bengals equivalent of the CFL, where it's just been bad luck losses, the defense letting them down to where it's the offense can only do so much. But the defense does just a little bit. There really hasn't been a game this year where the offense has truly cost them. There's been some questionable picks by Arbuckle, but that's not there's none that have been a back breaking to where then it's like, hey, if you had not thrown that, there's a chance we win. Even that was my big criticism with his interception 2 weeks ago, where it was, you had time on the clock, you didn't need to make a hero ball play. Those chunk change plays were what were killing both defenses all day. You slice and dice, you cut them up a bit. You took a big home run shot where you didn't need to, and it ultimately cost you. As we're 51 minutes in, and we haven't even touched on the World Cup situation. There's not much to it, but I think one big point a lot of fans aren't realizing, and because it does suck for the fans, it does feel like they've been misplaced, displaced year in and year out, the laughingstock of the league. But the broadcast element of it all, to where people are going, oh, you could go to London, you could go to Windsor, you could go to Guelph. None of those places are built to host CFL games regularly, to where I think it would have been better if they had just done 3 home games in Hamilton, but we brought up a good point before we chatted. You have them host BC or Calgary and Hamilton. Ticat fans aren't going to show up for that one. You have Ticat Argos in that stadium, they're going to show up for that. And that's pretty much what I have to say. And then for the broadcasting,
maybe this is the year the Argos should have played Hamilton 7 times, not a few years ago.
Yeah, that it should have been. Yeah, in 2023, it was 2 times there, 2 times here. Now it's literally they play them in July, they play Hamilton in 2 weeks in Labor Day, and then they play them again October 4th. So that's all it is. And then from a broadcasting standpoint, TSN, and then for a lot of people out there who don't know, Dome Productions, the main broadcaster for there, is going to feel a lot safer and secure going into a CFL stadium as opposed to going into a U Sports stadium, which also doesn't have the exact broadcasting components that Hamilton Stadium, Princess Auto, and Mosaic have.
Well, that's part of it too, right? Like, it's I understand, like, they've done those, Touchdown Atlantic, and what would be
Pacific.
the other one? Like the Pacific one. So there is a possibility of doing something like that, but I do think, and I do understand where fans are like, well, this also feels like it was just easier to do it in Saskatchewan and Winnipeg because if you go and you do it in Guelph, or if you go and do it in another city, you're not guaranteed the revenue.
No,
you're not. And unfortunately, there's probably already a bit of a loss happening with this team. There's probably a loss with this situation. They're probably trying to recoup some of that loss.
You're trying to minimize the amount you lose.
Yes. It's a business decision, too, at the end of the day as well, which I understand is not something fans want to hear. I understand it. I get it.
But it's reality.
It's the reality. It's the reality, right? We're talking about 2 games, and I understand that there are passionate fans who don't want to miss one game, right? Missing one game hurts. Missing 2, that hurts even more. It would be nice if the team offered a way to help those fans that maybe want to go and watch, right? Hey, we've set up, a discount for flights or hotels or a bus even. Imagine if the Argos did a bus to say, hey, fans, you want to go and watch, or a train. I don't know if you can even take the train. I've never done a train to Winnipeg or
that'd take a while.
It'll take like 3 days,
right?
It'd take a while.
I mean, driving it takes a little bit of time too, right? But like, find a way to get your fans there if you can, right? And I think that's what it is. I think it just feels like they went with the bare minimum instead of trying their best to find a solution that would appease all parties. But here's the thing, and Frank, we all and Griff,
you're
we all
going to piss
know
people off doing business no matter what you do.
You're going, yes, no, but you cannot make anybody 100% happy anymore.
Don't piss off the person writing the check.
But like I said, I talked to not on the air, but I'll mention this, is one of the season ticket holders told me they're under the impression that they're going to pay for those tickets regardless if they go or not. And that's adding insult to injury, and that insult is going to be painful for them. So if that's what they're doing, that's a mistake. They shouldn't charge the season ticket holders. They shouldn't force them to buy those tickets. I could see them forcing the Hamilton one.
Yeah.
They draw. I could see that. That I would forgive. But I'm not forgiving one where they want people to fly to Regina and fly to Winnipeg for a season ticket. My goodness. No, that's too far. They have to bite the bullet on those tickets. They really do. They have to bite the bullet on those tickets.
But I don't think that's the case. I don't think those tickets are a part of the season ticket package. I don't think they're saying.
Well, I hope he's wrong. Like I said to him, I hope you're wrong, because that
I'm 90% certain that that's the Hamilton game that's put on their package, because I think the tickets for the other games are actually on the Winnipeg and Saskatchewan packages. I don't think it's for...
I hope so. Just
that I don't think is the issue for fans, Frank. The issue is they lose 2 games off their 2 home games, and there's a competitive imbalance, right? Like,
yeah, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. That's, we're back to what else do you do, right? I mean, you want to fry an egg, you're going to have to crack the shell. And if you happen to break the yolk while you're doing it, such is life, right? You can toss out that egg if you want, or you just, well, that part we won't have the way we want it. That's just the way it is, man. We got to accept that kind of stuff. Like I said, the only thing I want to make sure of is they don't add insult to injury. And even if they're planning on doing that now, or they're letting people think they're doing that now, trust me, before the season ticket holders buy next year's season tickets, they're going to be told. And then that's when the rubber is going to hit the road as far as how the fans react to the ticket package. So, it's one thing to not, not have, I agree with you, David. It's a loss that they don't get those home games, right? And it's something that but that can't be helped. Just like, and I want to add this about Arbuckle. He's pretty straight. He himself said, remember, and you weren't there, but just to help you with this, Griff, he said when we interviewed him, we moved the ball for 400 yards and all we got were field goals. He accepted the fact that he had red zone failure. That doesn't excuse it, but at least he's accepting that he's made a mistake there. And that makes me feel like somebody who could try and improve. And you got a shot at improving. He's not trying to feed us any Kool-Aid. He knows he had his part to play. But if a quarterback has to be perfect, I don't know how a team's going to win, because quarterbacks aren't perfect.
There's also there's a couple big issues that aren't being, I don't think people are realizing of what's going to go into next season for the Argonauts. And before I actually get to that, there's a couple other things I have to say. I still wonder with next year's World Cup, how does it affect Budweiser Stage and how does it affect the Toronto Blue Jays? Just because, that's just going to be, it's because the downtown will be a circus. But my big thing for next year is the free agents to be, or anyone who's trade eligible that Toronto's targeting. They could easily say no, because for free agents, there's more to it. Hey, you're going to have girlfriend, wife, family, kids.
Life.
Where it's life beyond football to worry about, to where it's, hey, say for someone like Winton, for example, if he's here next year, I'm just saying that because I believe his contract's a year. Him telling his two small, his one child's a baby and Aiko's, I think, 2 or 3, I'm not too sure. But telling them, hey, dad's got to go on the road for a very long time. Those are tough conversations. I don't think people are realizing that people are going to have. Ryan Dinwiddie, who's going to be coaching this team, assumingly in 2026, just saying that because, we talked about earlier, he's got 2 young kids as well, to tell them, hey, dad's got to go do his job. Like how we mentioned, people come from all over the United States, all parts of Canada to be here, but then now we have to go make base camp in Winnipeg for a week. We got to go to Regina for a week. When they're in Hamilton, do they practice in Hamilton or do they live in Guelph for a week? There's a lot more logistical questions that I don't think fans are realizing that goes into these decisions. And they were just reaching to the conclusions, and they deservedly so need to, of we're angry, we're losing games, we don't feel respected. But there's a lot more than just what happens on the field and what happens in the checkbooks of MLSC that are going into this decision.
I got 4 numbers: 9-9, 12-6. That's your home and away numbers. Big difference between 9-9 and 12-6.
Yeah. It's literally 2/3 of your season essentially are spent on the road next year.
Just to help highlight your point.
Yeah.
Now they're probably going to have a very home heavy schedule to end the year, which could be beneficial if they can find a way to stay 500 in that time, and then they get the home dates at the end of the year. That might be something that works in their favor, but you got to win those other 12 games on the road first.
Well, it's the same discussion we have every year, guys. You can't lose too many games at the beginning of the year, because those are the games that are going to make it so you don't make the playoffs. That's just the simple fact of it. And if they're on the road or not, it really doesn't matter. I don't mean it doesn't matter that they're on the road or not, but it doesn't matter when you add the total. You've got to win a certain amount of games. You've got to have a certain amount of points, and they have to be better than at least one team in your division and every bottom team in the other one.
That's absolutely it. I just brought up the Blue Jays and Budweiser because it was my ADD brain going. But no, you're right. You guys are right on all fronts, where it's August, September, October. There's going to be heavy schedules. Maybe next year they have 2 CNE games, which we're going to segue us into our picks for this week because we got 4 games. But fun fact before we get into this, all 4 home teams this week are underdogs. As we move to the pick segment, as always, brought to you by the great folks at Gents Boutique. Code CFL 2025, 20% off any purchase of $50 or more. We start in Montreal, where the Blue Bombers are coming to town. Do we trust the Blue Bombers to cover a 5-point spread, something they failed to do last week because of Sergio Castillo and Mike O'Shea? Or does Montreal find a way to win here?
Fourth string quarterback officially going to be getting the start against a team that frankly has looked a lot better of late. The only way I can see Montreal win this game is if their defense gives them every opportunity and plays their butts off. I'm not. Montreal is. I've said it. Montreal's in trouble. Their next 5 games: Winnipeg, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, Toronto, Calgary.
That's a stretch that can really make or break their season.
And I don't know what Davis Alexander's situation is. I don't know if he's been off for 1, 2, 3. This is his 4th game. He might not even be back after 6. So that means he's the next 2 games. I don't think he's coming back. Oh, I personally am. I don't see Montreal doing well in this stretch. They could prove me wrong. They can definitely prove me wrong. Gonna need to see a lot of fight out of their offense. The running game has to pick it up. The running game hasn't been good enough for them. Really, it hasn't really been a running game for Montreal. Like Morgan did pretty good considering the situation, but that defense got feasted on by BC. Now, I think BC has a better offense than Winnipeg, but Winnipeg's got guys that are making plays right now. And if Brady Oliveira's getting back to his game too, it's not good. It's not good for Montreal. I don't see Montreal winning this, or even I don't know what I'm looking at. Trying to look at they're 5.5. I don't unless what we saw from Ottawa shows that maybe there's a bit of vulnerability with Winnipeg. I just don't see it.
Give me as much hesitation as David had. Assume there was that much hesitation in my answer. The fact that the hesitation exists tells you that not how bad Montreal is or the odds on them losing. It's the faith that we have in Winnipeg that's really the issue here. That's because you don't know what you're going to get in Winnipeg. I'm going to pick Winnipeg and the same hesitation that David gave. Pretend I gave you that and for me I'm not sure about Winnipeg, but I'll give Winnipeg the nod. Only because 4th string quarterback, that's really what they're going to start with. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's ugly. I only say
Caleb Evans done for the year, torn ACL.
Yep, Caleb Evans with torn ACL. It's up to Shea Patterson and James Morgan and Cameron Dukes, the lovely trio, the 3 of them. I'm only saying that because I was someone who was snake bitten last week, taking Winnipeg -5 on the spread, and they had it, but then Mike O'Shea needed to hold some accountability for his decision to run Castillo out there. I understand Castillo's got an iron leg, but at the same time, too, that decision nearly cost you the game. So I think we're all going Winnipeg here. It's just a matter of if they cover. And then Friday night, Ottawa, we'll say this, do the Elks win 3 in a row because Ottawa crumbled under their own pressure, or does Ottawa not crumble under pressure?
Want me to go first this time, David? Edmonton's is Edmonton the real deal? And I'm going to say with Fajardo under center, they're a much more real deal with him because he has the ability to understand the game. And sadly, their young quarterback just hasn't been able to do what it takes to win. And Fajardo is the kind of guy that excels under these situations, which is with a team that he feels isn't getting the respect that it deserves. It motivates him, and he helps motivate the other teams. We saw it in the Grey Cup with the Montreal won a few years back.
Yeah, the thing with this game is Fajardo's looking really good. I really wish someone had gotten my crumble metaphors, but that's neither here nor there. But it's weird with the Red Blacks. They've swept the Stampeders this year, but they're looking to avoid a sweep against the Elks. So it's kind of funny. But because Ottawa's been a really weird team this year. They're only 2. If you look at their 3 wins, 2 were against Calgary, 1 with PJ Walker, and 1 in goofy weather conditions in the middle of June. The 3rd was because Toronto just couldn't find a way to hold on. I need to see a complete game from Ottawa before I start believing in them seriously. So with all that, I've seen a lot. I think Edmonton's starting to become the team a lot of people thought they could be. I'm not saying they're going to be good. I don't think they're hosting the West Final.
Playoff contender.
I have a better term. Pain in the ass. You don't want to play them. They're annoying to play. They're that team that for some reason, it's like when David's watching a random Leafs game on a Tuesday night and they're like, why are the Leafs struggling against the Sharks? It's one of those situations where the team's not that good on paper, but they know how to find a way to win. And I think Edmonton's becoming that. And so with this game, I'm picking Edmonton because Edmonton's going into a game in 2 weeks that they ride into Labor Day winning 3 in a row. They really have a chance to put themselves on the map with a good showing in Calgary. So I think this is just the start of that. I'm not saying they're going to go beat Calgary in 2 weeks in Labor Day, but this is a real catapult game to where they win 3 in a row for the first time in God knows how long. People are going to start to change their opinion of them. So I'm picking the Elks here.
Well, what you're saying is what you're going to hear is the trembling in the ownership boxes of the Eastern Division teams. Yep. That's who they're going to shake.
And also, if you're an Argonaut fan, you should be rooting for Edmonton this week.
Also, Drew Brown's not playing, so give me Edmonton. I'm sorry. Like if I'm picking between Dustin Crum and Cody Fajardo, I'm going to pick Cody Fajardo. But again, it's not going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I think Ottawa will keep it close, but I just think Edmonton has found a bit of a groove, a little momentum, and I think they feel really positive about where they're going.
Exactly, and heading into a game like Labor Day, that's exactly what you want. And then Saturday afternoon, the crowd at BMO Field's going to be looking pretty strong. I don't know if you saw the map; they've opened up the 200 level east side. Regardless of the result, we get to have our waffle ice cream sandwiches at the end of the game. But I'm going to say this right now. I think this game has a potential chance to be a shootout. The over-under is 55.5. I'm not shying away from that number. That's probably going to be the bet I make for my video this week. I know it sounds weird, but I can see that going on. BC's put up 30 points consistently. Toronto can do the same. Toronto has beaten BC in Toronto every year since 2021. But for right now, I don't know if I can take Toronto or trust Toronto to win this game.
BC has beaten some, they've gotten some impressive wins. They got the better offense, more balanced offense. It's going to be a shootout, and I would probably say Toronto can keep it close. That's the one thing that I know they'll do. I just think right now you go with the team that's shown that they can come away with a win, even when they're not playing at their best, and that's BC right now.
Before Frank goes, do you think they can cover the 3.5?
Toronto?
I think they can.
Yes, I think they can. But it's like 3.5 is the most. Like I'm not. If it's under 3, if it's less than 3.5, I don't know about that. I think if they can keep within a field goal.
The number kept going up for the first Winnipeg. Sorry, Frank. The number kept going. First time Winnipeg came here, the number kept going in the other direction. When the number keeps going up and up, it's because more money's coming in on the other team to cover. So we'll see. If this number keeps going up, I'm more confident in Toronto. But if the number goes down, I'll be less confident in Toronto. So I think I like the over. I like Toronto to cover, but I like BC to win.
All I can say is if McManus and Coxie aren't in the lineup, this is going to get ugly. This will be the game that you and I, Griff, were talking about before the show.
Yep.
This could be the demolition, the realization of how bad this Argo team is. This is the opportunity setting itself up because they won't have an answer in offense without Coxie, and they won't have an answer for defense without McManus. I'm sorry, that's a bridge too far for me.
That's the other thing too. I think I need to see the injury report before I can.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with either of you, but I'm saying if the status quo is the status quo, and these two guys aren't in the lineup in a shootout. If these two guys aren't in the lineup in a shootout.
It is Tuesday, so it is a little early to judge it. Still, the game still is 4 days away. Yeah. But for right now, it's just that's what it is. The numbers could change by the time 48 hours from now, and we know, who's officially in, who's officially out. Obviously, there's some game time decisions. That stuff comes up. That's just football, but that's it. And then we end with Saturday night, and honestly, a game that's probably going to be the game of the week. The Calgary Stampeders, Saskatchewan Roughriders. My big question is this? Because I think this, but I want to get your guys' opinion on this. I think last week we really, how you're saying with Toronto, we can really see how bad this team is. I think last week we learned how good Saskatchewan really is.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. 100%.
They probably had a sour taste in their mouth in the way they lost to Calgary earlier in the year.
Goofy. That was a goofy 24
right.
hours.
I think they learned something from that one. They've been unstoppable ever since. Calgary's looked a little vulnerable when Verdon wasn't available either, right? Didn't look great. I think Saskatchewan still, I would give them the advantage, but I can totally see Calgary winning this game too. They've got the ability to do it, but I think Saskatchewan's form, the way they've played the last, this season and even the last few weeks, gives me a lot more confidence to back them.
I agree completely. I think Saskatchewan's just a team. I don't know if they are the 2023 Toronto Argonauts, but they definitely have that vibe of we will learn from our mistakes. We will get better. You give us an inch, we're gonna run you with it. We're gonna make you pay. Because look, that game could have been close last week for all we know. Corey Mace, for some reason, knows how to defend Bo Levi Mitchell. He's done it in the 4 games ever since he's gone to Saskatchewan, including when he was DC with Toronto in 2023. The big thing with this game, I think this is more of a litmus test for the Stampeders of getting them once is good, but can you get them twice, or was the first time just luck? That's the big thing for the Stampeders. But until Stampeders show me something, I'd rather be wrong picking against the Rough Riders than being wrong picking against the Rough Riders. So I'm fully going Saskatchewan here. I think they are they're the class of the CFL right now. And because I've spoken to a friend of the show, Britton Gray, local reporter in Regina, I know Rider fans would love nothing more than to end the season in the Grey Cup in their rival's stadium, kind of like the rival did in their stadium just 3 years ago.
I'll preface my what I believe. The coach and the team were buoyed by the great effort they had last week. In fact, they basically called it a moment for them to show who they are. The question I'm going to have is, are they going to exhale in time for this game to start? Because Calgary, one thing that they've proven all year is they rise when people doubt them. They played really good games going into games where people didn't think, Calgary's not going to do that much. So I'd almost go with Calgary. This is going to be probably a game that ends with the last possession, in my opinion. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a defensive gem. I'll tell you that much. And it's going to come down to the end of the game. And the question is going to be, does Calgary do what they've done all year, and that is come up big when they needed to? Or is last week the beginning of the Saskatchewan rush to the Grey Cup? It could be that. I'm really on the fence for this, guys. But I'm going to go with Saskatchewan only because even though they thought they had a great game, I think they still think they could do more. They've got a coach, Corey Mace, that's had a great, in my mind, reputation for lifting teams up past where they think they are. He has really done a great job of we saw it with his defense here in Toronto for a few years, where it doesn't matter how well they played one week, they turn around and play even better the next week. And I think that's the kind of coach he is, and that's the kind of team he can have. But as I said, the one qualifier is, will Calgary work another miracle like they've done this year? But my money's on Saskatchewan, and my money's on Saskatchewan. If they have, I don't think they'll cover. I don't think the team that wins will cover.
Spread's only 1.5, so this is essentially a pick'em game. So whoever you pick on the spread, you see who you think who's winning the game.
Yeah. So I'll go. I'm going to go with Saskatchewan.
Yeah. The other thing too with Saskatchewan as well. Speaking of former Argonauts, but Tommy Neal really carving out a nice role in that offense as well.
Well, injuries, next man up. He's really done it. He's done a good job of it. I've seen the clips. Like, he's a big receiver. He's a big target, and when he gets some momentum, it's hard to stop him.
That's just it. We have. It's almost like we're almost like a third of the way. Not even a third. We're almost like, it feels weird that the season's gone by like that. We're already going into week 11? Yeah, it's week 11 because the Argos right now are 2-8, 10 games. They've had a bye week. But we're going into week 11 of the CFL season.
12.
Oh,
last week was week 11, wasn't it? Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
Never mind. Last week was week 11. This is week 12. It's been a very fun and fascinating week. It's going to be interesting, though, because after this week, there's not another CFL game until next Sunday, August 31st, because only the teams involved in Labor Day rivalry weeks are playing next weekend. Ottawa, Montreal, and BC are going to be on the bye weeks. This is a huge. If the Toronto Argonauts, and I know this has been more of an Argonauts, just vent/therapy session on what we feel about the team. But if they were to really turn their season around, and I'm scared they're walking into a pissed off Tiger cage next Monday in Hamilton, this is the week where they really have to watch Winnipeg, Edmonton, and them hopefully pick up a victory to turn around any momentum. Because if you're tied with Ottawa and you can get the tiebreaker over BC, you pretty much control your own destiny. So it's going to be really interesting to see what else happens. And before we go, I actually have one NFL question for our wonderful friend, Mr. Morisuti. Are you looking forward to the Cowboys doc on Netflix or no? I just wanted to ask you. Really?
Anything that inflates Jerry Jones' ego, no. No.
There's always the cheerleaders.
Picked up that show that's like one of the more popular NFL shows on Netflix. I'm not even kidding. Like that show, like hell, I even watched it.
Shouldn't be surprised, Griff.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, you know how people are saying, oh, quarterback tanked, or oh, receiver, like the second season of quarterback wasn't as good, or the receivers wasn't as good as quarterback. America's Sweethearts was a top show on Netflix. Like season 1 was good, season 2 was good. Production for season 3 is underway. I just wanted to ask you about that.
Forever, they've been a money machine. Forever, and finally this year they're getting paid a little bit.
They
their new contract, right?
That Netflix is a huge reason why they're getting paid. I just wanted to ask you about that before we go. But anyway, gentlemen, it's been a blast getting to chat with you guys. Saturday, we'll get to watch the game. Hopefully there's a good crowd. We'll get our sandwiches after the game. But anyway, guys, it's been a blast. Episode 376 is in the bag. For Candid Frank Sinishi, for David Morisuti, I'm Griff. Have a good night. Keep enjoying CFL and keep it unreal.